Hi, this is Dr. David Klein with Stages of Life Medical Institute, Longwood, Florida. What I'd like to do is to give you a little briefing on what you need to do to get back to work. Okay, and back to work it goes. The engine of our country is stalled. If we don't get it back together, we're going to have an even bigger problem than they saw in the Great Depression. My parents went through that. They talked about it a lot when I was a kid. And so, that left a little bit of a lesson on me, but many of the people that are somewhat younger than I am, they never really heard much about this. Yeah, they don't even read much in history anymore. Okay, so not watching old movies, not hearing about it from their parents, they're going to learn a lesson here, which is called, what do you do when you're unemployed? What do you do when you can't get employed? What do you do if the businesses disappear? So we've got to get up off our collective rear ends and get back at it. Now, what's it going to take to do this? Now, I'm going to tell you a little story of something that happened over the weekend. There's a fire department, a firehouse, okay, in a nearby city, just north of here, about an hour and a half. And there was a fireman or so who became contacted, or they came in contact with somebody with COVID, and they were going to put the whole firehouse under quarantine. Now, that's a big deal if you live in that area. You have a fire, your department is out of commission. That is a lot of asset that goes out for no particular reason other than fear of maybe we got infected. So they ended up receiving some of our test kits. These are the serology test kits, and they went ahead and tested everybody in the firehouse, and nobody had antibodies, which meant nobody was exposed. Kind of neat. Now, there is a 2 or 3 day lag between when you're exposed and when you get the test, and that was observed. Nobody was exposed, which meant they did not need to go on quarantine. Well, they had a few test kits left over, and they wanted to see how good these test kits were. So they went ahead and took them to a local hospital where there were people in the intensive care unit, which they knew with some degree of certainty that what they were coughing out was in fact infectious and COVID-19. Why? Because they did the PCR testing and found the virus in their secretions. And the tests showed positive in all 4 samples, which means that the test actually is pretty good. It'll tell you if you're exposed, it'll tell you if you have an immune system going on, and it'll tell you if you have active disease. This is what we're going to have to get people safely back to work. So let's say you're one of the people that got sick. Okay, what are they going to do? Leave you at home for the rest of your life? When do you know that it's safe to do so? Do we have to rate you by doing a PCR and waiting 2 weeks to get the results back? Which, by the way, is the way it's working right now. Well, they're sending out these kits and these machines to X, Y, and Z, and they can do a test every 10 minutes. Well, I'll tell you what, if you have an office with 60 people in it, okay, and it takes 10 minutes to do a test, it's going to take several days to get this done. And that's just one office. Imagine that you've got a bakery that has 100 employees, and you got to do 100 of these? All right, we do have a machine, okay, in my other laboratory. You have a reference laboratory that'll do 500 studies an hour. But even at that, we have 14 million people in the state of Florida, and there are more of them in California and Texas than there are here. Getting people back to work, you can't rely on these sorts of technologies. But you can with the point of care sticks. Why? Because you can know in 10 minutes, and anybody who has a cell phone that has a timer on it, okay, anybody is going to be able to run this test. Now, by law, you have to have a highly complex lab to do this. We're blessed here that we can do this. But the health department, they don't have to obey the laws that the rest of us do, okay? So they can actually run these sorts of things. So in order for you to go back, you probably should be tested for antibodies. What does it tell you? It tells you that you're safe. It tells you that you may not be spilling the virus anymore. And it'll tell you that the next time around, it's less likely that you're going to get infected again, because there is some immunity imparted by these gamma globulins. That's what you're looking for. Are there guarantees in life? The answer is no. But you do have to get back to work. Now, that's when it gets interesting. How long are we going to have to wear these masks? Now, they made this thing for me. Okay, why? Okay, they think a lot of me, maybe. Okay. But when in your experience were you able to wear one of these into a bank lobby, right? Again, this could be fun. Or a 7-Eleven. In 6 months, when all this passes and we start wearing these things around, you better be sure not to get shot, okay? Because there's certain places where wearing a mask is not a good idea, or certainly not a good idea if you plan to live. You walk into a 7-Eleven with one of those things, you might find yourself being carried out feet first. So we do need to get back to work. Getting tested is the way to do this. Staying safe is a really good way to do this. And if you have diabetes, if you have autoimmune disorders, if you're obese, get these things under control. Why does the United States have such a high incidence of these diseases? Because of lack of self-control. These are self-induced by and large by our diet, lack of discipline, and wouldn't you know it, if you read a little bit about it, you're going to learn how to take care of your diabetes. You know, this is the sort of thing we do at Stages of Life on a routine basis. We're not the only ones out there doing it. So this is Dr. David Klein at Stages of Life Medical Institute. You can check us out at stagesoflifemedicalinstitute.com. Great if you do. Thank you for listening in.